Welcome to English at Work. I'm Jenny.
And I'm Alex. This is the first episode of our Interview Mastery series.
Over the next 8 episodes, we're going to transform you from interview nervous to interview ready.
Today, we're talking about what happens before you even step into that interview room, because great interviews start days, sometimes weeks before the actual meeting.
And if you're listening to this, you probably have an interview coming up, or you want to be ready when that opportunity comes.
Either way, you're in the right place. We're going to cover everything from research strategies to what to wear, from mental preparation to the practical details that most people forget about.
By the end of this episode, you'll have a complete checklist for interview preparation. So grab a notebook if you can, because we're packing this episode with actionable tips.
Let's get started.
So, Alex, picture this. You got the email. We'd like to invite you for an interview.
Ah, that exciting moment. But here's where most candidates make their first mistake. They think the interview starts when they sit down across from the hiring manager.
Exactly. Wrong. The interview started the moment you sent that application. I have to tell you about my friend Sarah. Brilliant engineer, perfect qualifications. She showed up to her dream job interview at a tech startup in San Francisco, and the first question was, "So, what do you know about our company?"
Oh no, let me guess. She froze?
Completely. She mumbled something vague like, "I know you do software development and you're growing really fast," and the interviewer just nodded politely. She'd spent hours, literally hours, preparing answers about her technical experience, practicing coding problems, reviewing algorithms, but she hadn't spent 10 minutes on the company website.
Did she get the job?
What do you think? They sent her a rejection email 2 days later. The feedback said, technically strong, but not a cultural fit. That's code for, she didn't seem interested enough.
That's brutal. And the thing is, it's such an easy thing to fix.
Exactly. 30 minutes of preparation could have changed everything. So let's make sure our listeners don't make the same mistake.
Right. So let's start with the foundation of all good interview preparation.
Let's break down what research actually means.
We're not talking about reading the About Us page once and calling it a day.
Right. We're talking about becoming a mini expert on this company. So here's what I do. I open a document, maybe a Google Doc or just a Word file, and I answer specific questions. I actually write down the answers.
Why write them down? Why not just read and remember?
Because writing forces you to process the information. You can't just skim. And when you're nervous before the interview, and trust me, everyone gets nervous, you can review your notes and calm yourself down by remembering all the work you've done.
That's smart. So what kind of questions should people answer?
First, the company basics. What does this company actually do? And here's my test. Can you explain it to a 10-year-old? If you can't simplify it, you don't understand it yet.
I love that. Give me an example.
Okay, let's say you're interviewing at Salesforce. Don't just memorize, they provide cloud-based customer relationship management solutions. That's jargon. Say, they make software that helps companies keep track of their customers and sales, all stored on the internet so teams can work together from anywhere.
Perfect. That shows you actually understand what they do, not just what their marketing page says.
Exactly. What else should be in this research document?
Who are their clients or customers? What's happening with them right now? Recent news, product launches, expansions, funding rounds, any challenges they're facing in the market.
And where do you find all this information?
LinkedIn is absolute gold. The company's LinkedIn page often has recent updates. Google News, just search the company name and filter by the last month. The company's own blog or press releases section, they always publish their wins there. Their social media, especially LinkedIn and Twitter, or X, whatever we're calling it now.
I also check Glassdoor, not just for reviews, but to see what employees are saying about the interview process itself.
Oh, that's clever. You can see what questions they typically ask.
Exactly. And here's a pro tip. Check if the company has been in the news in the last 30 days. If they just launched something new, won an award, hired a new CEO, or announced a major partnership, mention it. It shows you're genuinely interested and you're keeping up with current events.
Let me give you a script for this. In the interview, you could say, I saw that you recently launched your new AI-powered analytics feature. I actually read the blog post about it, and I'm curious. What kind of feedback are you getting from early users, and how does this fit into the product roadmap for this year?
Oh, that's excellent. You've shown initiative, genuine interest, and you're asking an intelligent, forward-thinking question. That's not something a candidate who just wants any job would ask.
And don't forget the interviewer themselves. If you know who's interviewing you, and usually HR tells you or it's in the calendar invite, look them up on LinkedIn.
But be careful here. You're not stalking them. You're looking for professional common ground. Maybe you went to the same university, or you both worked in the same industry, or you're both interested in the same professional topics.
Exactly. You might say in the interview, I noticed on LinkedIn that you've been with the company for 5 years and you started in sales before moving to management. I'm really curious, what's kept you here so long? What do you love about the company culture?
People love talking about themselves and their journey, and it shows you did your homework.
Here's something else people don't think about. Look at the company's competitors. If you're interviewing at Nike, know what Adidas and Under Armour are doing. If you're interviewing at Coca-Cola, know what Pepsi's up to.
Why does that matter?
Because it shows you understand the industry, not just the company. And sometimes interviewers ask, why us and not our competitor? If you can answer that intelligently, like, I chose to apply here because I noticed you're leading in sustainable manufacturing practices, which aligns with my values, you're golden.
That word golden means perfect, by the way. If you're golden, you're in an excellent position.
Good point. We should explain idioms as we go. Now, here's one more research tip. Check out the job description again, really carefully.
Why again? You already read it when you applied.
Because you need to match yourself to it. Every requirement they list, you should have an example ready. If they say must have experience with project management, you should have a specific project ready to discuss.
So you're basically creating a mental map between what they need and what you've done.
Exactly. This is the bridge you'll walk across during the interview.
Okay, so you've researched the company inside and out. But Alex, here's what people forget. You also need to research yourself.
What do you mean by that?
Pull up your own resume and read it like you're the interviewer. What questions would you ask about it? What looks confusing or unclear? What might raise a red flag?
Oh, that's smart. So if there's a gap in employment, or you changed industries completely, or you were only at a job for 6 months, you need a clear answer ready.
Don't wait for them to put you on the spot. Prepare your explanation in advance and make it honest but positive. Never lie, but frame things in the best possible light.
Can you give an example of explaining a gap in employment?
Sure. Don't say, I couldn't find a job or the job market was terrible. Say, I took 6 months to care for a family member who was ill, and during that time, I also completed 2 online courses in data analysis and earned a Google Analytics certification to keep my skills sharp and stay current in my field.
So you're honest about the gap, but you also show what you did with that time. You weren't just sitting around.
Precisely. Here's another one. What if you were only at a job for 6 months?
That's tricky. People worry about looking like a job hopper.
Right. So you could say, I realized very quickly that the role wasn't what was described in the interview process. The position was supposed to be focused on strategy, but it turned out to be mostly administrative work. Rather than stay in a role where I wasn't adding value or growing, I made the decision to find a better fit.
That's good because you're not bad-mouthing the company, you're taking ownership of the decision and you're showing you know what you want.
Exactly. Now here's an exercise I want everyone listening to do. Write down 5 achievements from your career. Not responsibilities, achievements. Not what you were supposed to do, but what you actually accomplished.
Can you explain the difference? I think people confuse these all the time.
Great question. A responsibility is I manage the company's social media accounts. An achievement is I increased Instagram engagement by 40% in 6 months by creating a new content strategy focused on user-generated content and behind-the-scenes stories.
So one is just describing your job, the other is describing your impact, the result.
Exactly. And notice the achievement has numbers, 40%, 6 months. These details make it real and memorable. Anyone can say they did a good job. Numbers prove it.
What if someone's in a job where it's hard to measure things with numbers, like an administrative assistant or a teacher?
There's always something quantifiable if you look for it. Did you save time? I created a new filing system that reduced document retrieval time from 10 minutes to 2 minutes, saving the team approximately 40 hours per month.
Did you improve a process? I redesigned the onboarding process for new employees, and satisfaction scores increased from 3.5 to 4.2 out of 5.
For teachers?
My students' test scores improved by an average of 15% over the school year. Or I introduced a new reading program that increased the number of students reading at grade level from 60% to 78%.
And even if you don't have exact numbers?
Use estimates and be clear they're estimates. I trained approximately 30 new employees over 2 years is much better than I trained new employees. Or I handled roughly 50 customer calls per day with a 95% satisfaction rating. Here's something else I do. I actually practice saying these achievements out loud, because when you're nervous in an interview, your mind can go blank. That's an idiom. Go blank means you suddenly can't remember anything.
That's such a great point. Say them in the shower, say them while you're walking to work, say them to your spouse or your cat. I don't care. Just get comfortable with your own success stories.
And don't be humble here. This isn't the time for modesty. If you did something great, own it.
In many cultures, talking about your achievements feels like bragging, but in English-speaking business context, especially in the US, UK, and Australia, you're expected to sell yourself.
Right. They won't know how good you are unless you tell them. They can't read your mind.
All right, let's talk about the practical things that can make or break your interview day. Jenny, what's your checklist for the day before?
First, where is this interview? If it's in person, I actually go there the day before if I can.
Wait, you physically go to the location?
Yes, I time the journey, I see where to park or which subway exit to use. I figure out which entrance. Some office buildings have multiple entrances, and only one might be unlocked or staffed. I never want to be that person running in 15 minutes late saying, "Sorry, I got lost."
That's actually brilliant. I've been late to an interview once in my career, and it threw off my entire performance. I spent the first 10 minutes apologizing profusely and trying to calm my racing heart instead of showing my best self.
Exactly. Remove that stress. And if you can't physically go the day before, at least use Google Maps Street View to see what the building looks like. Look at reviews of the building to see if parking is difficult or if security takes a long time.
What about virtual interviews? Those are so common now, especially since COVID changed everything.
Test everything the day before. Camera, microphone, internet connection, lighting. I cannot stress this enough. Join the meeting link the day before just to make sure it works and you know how to use the platform.
Is it Zoom, Microsoft Teams, Google Meet? They all work slightly differently.
Exactly. Figure out where the mute button is, where the chat function is, how to share your screen if they ask you to. Don't be fumbling with technology during the actual interview.
And what's the lighting issue? I hear people mention that, but I'm not sure everyone understands it.
You don't want to sit with a window behind you. You'll look like a dark silhouette. The interviewer won't be able to see your face clearly. Face the window if you can, so natural light illuminates your face. Or use a desk lamp positioned in front of you.
What about the background? Does that matter?
Absolutely. Keep it clean and professional. No messy beds or laundry piles in view. A plain wall is fine. A bookshelf is good. Just make sure it's not distracting.
I once interviewed someone who had a poster of a rock band behind them. Not necessarily unprofessional, but it was all I could focus on.
Exactly. You want them focusing on you and what you're saying, not your surroundings.
What should you bring to an in-person interview?
Multiple copies of your resume, at least 3. Why 3? 1 for you to reference, 1 for the interviewer, and 1 extra in case someone else joins the meeting unexpectedly.
Good point. What else?
A notebook and pen for taking notes. This is important. Taking notes shows you're engaged and taking the conversation seriously.
What kind of things should you write down?
The interviewer's name if you're worried you might forget it. Key points about the role that surprise you or that you want to follow up on. Something interesting they said that you want to mention in your thank you email later. Maybe a detail about a project they mentioned.
Should you ask permission to take notes?
You can say, "Do you mind if I take a few notes? I want to make sure I remember the important details." No one will say no to that. It actually makes you look more professional.
Also bring a list of references if they ask, though usually that comes later in the process. And bring questions. Always bring questions to ask them. Write them down, because in the moment you might forget.
We'll cover good questions to ask in a later episode, but yes, never ever say, "No, I don't have any questions." That signals you're not really interested or you haven't thought deeply about the role.
Even if they've answered everything, you can say, "You've actually covered most of my questions, but I'd love to hear, what do you personally enjoy most about working here?"
That's a great backup question.
Can we talk about clothing? Because I know people stress about this.
Yes, and here's the golden rule. When in doubt, dress slightly more formally than you think you need to.
What does that mean practically?
If you're not sure if it's business casual or casual, go business casual. If you're not sure if it's business casual or formal, go formal. It's always better to be slightly overdressed than underdressed.
Can you give specific examples?
For men, you can never go wrong with dress pants and a button-down shirt. Add a tie if you're unsure. A suit is always safe for corporate environments. For women, a blouse and dress pants, or a professional dress, or a skirt and blazer.
What about tech companies or creative industries? I've heard they're more casual.
They might be, but for the interview, still dress up a bit. You can ask the recruiter beforehand, what's the dress code for the interview? That's a perfectly acceptable question. They'll appreciate that you asked.
And I'd say, make sure everything is clean, ironed, and fits well. Don't wear something brand new that you've never worn before because it might be uncomfortable or you might discover it doesn't fit right.
Great point. You don't want to discover your shirt is too tight around the collar or your shoes give you blisters in the middle of your interview. Wear something you've worn before and feel confident in.
What about accessories? Jewelry, watches, that kind of thing.
Keep it simple and professional. A watch is fine, simple earrings or a necklace is fine, but avoid anything too flashy or distracting. You don't want your giant dangly earrings clinking every time you move your head. What about perfume or cologne? Either skip it or use very little. Some people are sensitive to strong scents. You don't want the interviewer to remember you as that person who wore too much perfume.
What about virtual interviews? Should you still dress professionally?
Yes, at least from the waist up, since that's all they'll see. It actually helps you get into a professional mindset. Don't interview in your pajama top, even if they can't see your pajama pants. And here's a weird tip. Even though they can only see your top half, wear proper pants or skirt anyway. It affects how you sit, your posture, and how confident you feel.
That's actually backed by psychology research. When you dress professionally, you think more professionally. Your brain takes cues from what you're wearing.
Let's talk about the night before the interview.
Okay, what's your routine?
I lay everything out the night before. My outfit, my bag with extra resumes, my notebook and pen, my printed directions or the interview link saved. I don't want to be scrambling in the morning.
That's smart. Mornings can be chaotic.
I also set 2 alarms, one on my phone and one on an actual alarm clock. I'm paranoid about oversleeping.
Better safe than sorry. What about the night before? Do you stay up late preparing?
No, this is important. Get a good night's sleep. Don't stay up until 2 a.m. cramming information. You need to be sharp and energetic for the interview.
So when should you stop preparing?
I give myself a cutoff time, maybe 8 or 9 p.m. the night before. After that, I do something relaxing, watch a light TV show, read a book, take a bath, something to help me wind down.
And don't drink too much alcohol the night before, even if you're nervous.
Oh gosh, yes. You don't want to be hungover for your interview. 1 glass of wine to relax is fine, but don't overdo it.
What about the morning of? What do you eat?
Eat something, definitely. You don't want your stomach growling during the interview, but don't try something new or exotic. Stick with something you know won't upset your stomach.
So no spicy curry for breakfast.
Exactly. Toast, eggs, oatmeal, yogurt, something simple and satisfying. And bring a water bottle with you if it's in person. You might need it if your mouth gets dry from nerves.
For virtual interviews, have water nearby off camera, and maybe a tissue in case you need to sneeze.
Good thinking. Also, use the bathroom right before the interview starts. You don't want to be uncomfortable for 45 minutes.
So what's next?
Okay, can we talk about something people don't prepare for enough?
What's that?
The mental preparation, your mindset going into that room or logging into that video call.
Oh, this is so important. I've seen people who are perfectly qualified talk themselves out of the job before they even start. They go in thinking, I hope they like me, or I hope I don't mess this up, or I'm probably not good enough for this.
Right, that's the wrong mindset. It's self-defeating. So here's what I want our listeners to do the night before. Write down 3 reasons why you're qualified for this job. Not why you want it, why you're good for it.
Can you give an example?
Sure. I'm qualified because I have 5 years of project management experience in the healthcare industry, which is exactly what this role requires. Or, I'm qualified because I successfully led a team of 8 people, and this position involves managing a team of 6, so I know I can handle it.
So you're matching your experience to their needs.
Exactly. And then, read it in the morning. Read it on the way there. Read it in the coffee shop nearby if you need to.
This isn't arrogance. It's reminding yourself of the value you bring. You're not lying, you're not exaggerating, you're just remembering your strengths when nerves might make you forget them.
I also tell people, remember, interviews are a 2-way street. You're not begging for a job. You're evaluating whether this company is right for you, too.
That's a game changer for confidence. When you walk in thinking, let's see if we're a good fit for each other, instead of, please hire me, your whole energy changes.
Your body language changes. You sit up straighter. Your voice is steadier. You make better eye contact. You become more conversational and less desperate.
What about nerves? Some people get really anxious. I know I used to get sweaty palms and a racing heart and butterflies in my stomach.
Nerves are completely normal, even good. They show you care. But here's a technique: power posing. Before the interview, stand in a confident pose for 2 minutes, shoulders back, hands on hips, like a superhero.
Does that actually work? It sounds a bit silly.
Studies by Amy Cuddy at Harvard showed it can increase testosterone, which is related to confidence, and decrease cortisol, which is the stress hormone. But honestly, even if it's just a placebo effect, who cares? If it makes you feel more confident, do it.
I do something similar. I listen to a song that makes me feel powerful right before. For me, it's Eye of the Tiger. I know it's cheesy from the Rocky movies, but it works for me.
Not cheesy at all. Whatever gets you in the right headspace. Some people do breathing exercises. There's one called box breathing. Breathe in for 4 counts, hold for 4, breathe out for 4, hold for 4. Repeat.
That's called box breathing, right? I've heard military snipers and Navy SEALs use it to stay calm under pressure.
Exactly. If it works for them in life or death situations, it can work for you in an interview.
Here's my last mental tip. Arrive 10 to 15 minutes early, but don't go into the building or announce yourself yet. Sit in your car or find a cafe nearby. Use that time to review your notes one last time, do your power pose, take some deep breaths, listen to your pump-up song.
And if you're early, don't announce yourself to reception until about 5 minutes before your scheduled time. You don't want to seem overeager or desperate, and the interviewer might not be ready for you yet.
But definitely don't be late. 5 minutes early is the sweet spot. Perfect timing.
All right, let's recap everything we covered today. Before your interview, you need to research 3 things: the company, the role, and yourself.
Research the company's recent news, their clients, their competitors. Look up your interviewer on LinkedIn for common ground.
Review your own resume and prepare explanations for anything that might raise questions. Write down 5 specific achievements with numbers to prove your impact.
Check the practical details: location, timing, technology if it's virtual, what to bring. Do a test run the day before if possible.
Dress appropriately. When in doubt, go slightly more formal. Make sure your clothes are clean, comfortable, and professional.
Prepare everything the night before so you're not rushing in the morning. Get a good night's sleep, eat a simple breakfast.
And prepare mentally. Write down 3 reasons you're qualified. Remember, this is a 2-way evaluation. Use power poses or breathing exercises to manage nerves.
Next episode, we're diving into the most common interview questions and how to answer them without sounding like a robot reading from a script.
We'll cover Tell Me About Yourself, What Are Your Strengths and Weaknesses, and several others that come up in almost every interview. Trust me, you'll want to hear this one.
Until then, this is Alex.
And Jenny from English at Work. Good luck with your preparation, and remember, preparation is power.